It started with a flicker. Then the numbers turned red and the floor fell out. Savings vanished as global markets spiraled into chaos. Jobs were lost, and families were left in sudden despair. In an instant, lives were upended across the globe. When the system breaks, the world stops. And then, darkness. Imagine waking up to find your life savings evaporated, your home seized, your career gone. In the fall of 2008, this wasn't a nightmare, it was reality for millions of people. The global financial system didn't just stumble, it suffered a massive, catastrophic heart attack. But how did the smartest guys in the room bring the entire world to the brink of total economic collapse? Welcome back to the channel. Today, we are dissecting the 2008 global financial crisis. It was an event that erased over $2 trillion from the global economy almost overnight, reshaping politics, society, and our collective trust in the system. Understanding 2008 isn't just a history lesson, it is crucial for understanding the economic anxieties we still feel today. To comprehend the magnitude of what happened, we have to pull back the curtain on the Wall Street machines, the regulatory failures, and the blinding greed that created a perfect storm. It all started with something that seems entirely harmless: the American dream. In the early 2000s, following the dot-com crash, the Federal Reserve slashed interest rates to historic lows to keep the economy moving. Money was incredibly cheap to borrow. Banks wanted to lend, and everyone wanted to buy a home. Initially, this was fine, but soon, banks ran out of qualified borrowers. To keep the profits rolling in, they dropped their standards. They began issuing what are known as subprime mortgages. These were massive loans given to people with poor credit histories, unstable incomes, and sometimes no down payment at all. In the industry, they jokingly called them ninja loans. No income, no job, and no assets. This flood of easy money created a massive housing bubble. Because anyone could get a loan, demand skyrocketed, driving housing prices to astronomical, unsustainable highs. People treated real estate like a casino, buying houses just to flip them a few months later. But why would banks hand out hundreds of billions of dollars in loans they knew people couldn't pay back? Because they weren't keeping them. Enter Wall Street. Instead of holding on to these risky mortgages, lenders sold them to Wall Street investment banks. The banks took thousands of these mortgages, bundled them together, and created complex financial products called Mortgage-Backed Securities, or MBS. The banks then paid credit rating agencies to slap a golden AAA rating on these bundles. They took toxic, radioactive debt and magically labeled it as safe as a U.S. Treasury bond. Wall Street sold these ticking time bombs to pension funds, international governments, and retirement accounts around the globe, making billions in fees while passing the risk onto unsuspecting investors. In 2004, interest rates began to creep back up. By 2006, the music finally stopped. Those adjustable rate subprime mortgages reset to higher payments that families couldn't afford. Millions of homeowners defaulted. A flood of foreclosed houses hit the market, and the housing bubble violently burst. Real estate prices plummeted. Suddenly, homeowners owed more on their mortgages than their houses were actually worth. And those AAA-rated mortgage-backed securities? They were instantly exposed for what they were: completely worthless. Panic swept through the financial system. Banks stopped lending to each other overnight because no one knew who was holding the toxic debt. Credit completely froze. Businesses couldn't make payroll. The very lifeblood of the global capitalist system stopped flowing. The defining, heart-stopping moment of the crisis hit on September 15, 2008. Lehman Brothers, a massive Wall Street titan that had survived the Civil War, 2 World Wars, and the Great Depression, filed for bankruptcy. They were choking on billions in toxic real estate assets. The U.S. government, trying to draw a line in the sand, refused to bail them out. The shockwave was instantaneous and brutal. Global stock markets cratered. the Dow Jones plunged. Realizing the entire global economy was days away from collapsing into a modern dark age, governments were forced to reverse course. In the U.S., Congress controversially passed the Troubled Asset Relief Program, TARP, injecting a staggering $700 billion of taxpayer money to bail out institutions that were deemed too big to fail. The bailout saved the banks, but it didn't save ordinary people. While Wall Street executives still collected massive bonuses, Main Street was plunged into the Great Recession. The human toll was devastating. Over 8 million Americans lost their jobs, pushing the unemployment rate to 10%. An estimated 10 million people were displaced as millions of homes went into foreclosure. Trillions of dollars in retirement savings vanished. This wasn't just a loss of money on a spreadsheet. It was a loss of dignity. It was parents unable to send their kids to college, families sleeping in cars, and a profound, permanent shattering of trust in the financial system. The ripple effects crossed oceans, sparking sovereign debt crises in Europe and dragging the global economy down with it. So, what did we learn? Are we actually safer today? In the aftermath, governments tightened the leash. In the U.S., the Dodd-Frank Act was passed, forcing banks to hold more cash in reserve and submit to rigorous stress tests to ensure they could survive another crash. We curbed some of the most reckless trading practices. Mechanically, the banking system is undeniably sturdier today than it was in 2007. But critics argue that the institutions that were too big to fail back then have only merged and become even bigger today. The shadow banking system remains incredibly complex, and fundamentally, the human capacity for greed has not been legislated out of existence. The 2008 financial crisis is a glaring reminder of what happens when unchecked ambition meets systemic blindness. It proved that when the wealthiest gamble with the economy, it is the everyday citizen who pays the price when the house loses. As we look toward the future of our economy, we have to ask ourselves, have we truly rebuilt the foundation, or did we just paper over the cracks? Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. If you found this breakdown valuable, hit the like button and subscribe for more deep dives. Until next time, stay informed.